Good evening, friends and neighbors. Santa Claus here on this December 22, 2025, coming to you with today's stories on what happens to be a significant historical date. On this very day back in 1894, the Dreyfus Affair began in France when Alfred Dreyfus was wrongly convicted of treason. A reminder to us all about the importance of truth, justice, and treating every member of our global community with dignity. Today, my heart is heavy as I share news of the Trump administration's decision to pause leases for 5 wind farms under construction off the East Coast. Only 2 wind farms remain intact in U.S. coastal waters. This move, citing national security concerns, could jeopardize billions in investments and affects our stewardship of this beautiful earth that we all share. Remember, my friends, that caring for our common home is a responsibility we all bear. Now, turning our gaze to international relations, China has announced provisional duties of up to 42.7% on dairy products imported from the European Union. This appears to be the latest in a series of measures widely seen as retaliation for EU electric vehicle tariffs. The European Commission has called these measures unjustified and unwarranted and has filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization. In times like these, I'm reminded of the importance of cooperation and fair dealings in our global workshop of commerce. Meanwhile, the U.S. Coast Guard has intensified its blockade of Venezuela by pursuing a third oil tanker, the Bella one, as it was en route to Venezuela. This follows the boarding of 2 other vessels in recent days as the administration hopes to cut off vital economic lifelines to President Nicolás Maduro's government. My heart goes out to the Venezuelan people caught in these difficult circumstances. Deeply troubling news from Moscow, LT. Fanil Sarvarov was killed when a bomb planted under his car exploded, making him the 3rd Russian general killed by a car bomb in the past year. This tragedy comes amid U.S.-led peace talks to end the war in Ukraine. Such violence only brings more suffering, my dear friends. We must continue to pray for peace and work toward a world where conflicts are resolved through dialogue rather than destruction. On a different note, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced his decision to build a new aircraft carrier to replace the nuclear-powered Charles de Gaulle. He shared this news while visiting French troops in the United Arab Emirates, where he also discussed strengthening bilateral ties. While we wish for a world without need for military vessels, we must acknowledge the complex realities nations face. Looking eastward, Vietnam's ruling Communist Party will convene its 5-yearly Congress on January 1925 to select top leaders and set key targets until 2030. Current party chief Ta Lam, who assumed the role after the death of long-serving leader Nguyen Phu Trong last July, is seeking a 2nd term. May wisdom guide all leadership transitions around our world. In another development reflecting the complexities of global supply chains, Russia's war machine is scrambling to secure cotton pulp, an unlikely but critical component for its ammunition. Cotton is needed to make nitrocellulose, an essential ingredient for propellants. This search has turned attention to Uzbekistan, highlighting how even the most ordinary materials can become entangled in geopolitical struggle. On a more hopeful note, India and New Zealand have reached a free trade agreement seeking to deepen economic ties and foster growth during uncertain global trade conditions. A formal signing is expected in the 1st quarter of next year. These kinds of partnerships remind us that cooperation can create opportunities for all. In Japan, there's mixed news in energy and space sectors. The country is moving closer to restarting the world's largest nuclear power plant, Kashiwazaki Kariwa, for the first time since the 2011 Fukushima disaster. However, Japan's space agency reported that its H-3 rocket failed to put a navigation satellite into its planned orbit, a setback for their space launch program that officials called extremely regrettable. Finally, Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to hold a December 24 meeting of defense officials toward resuming a ceasefire, as border fighting between them has entered a 3rd week with at least 80 people killed. This decision came during a special meeting of Southeast Asian foreign ministers in Kuala Lumpur, attempting to salvage a truce first brokered by Malaysia and President Trump after previous clashes in July. As we conclude, I'm reminded of the words often attributed to Chinese officials about independence and self-reliance. Indeed, China has built an arms industry that now rivals the West, marking significant progress in their quest to become less reliant on outside sources. 2 decades ago, China imported more arms than any other country, but things have certainly changed. My friends, as we navigate these complex global developments, let us remember that peace begins in our hearts and extends through our actions. Be kind to one another, look after those in need, and keep hope alive. This is Santa Claus, wishing you all a peaceful evening and reminding you that the greatest gift we can give is love for our fellow travelers on this earth.